So, you know that feeling, right? You're scrolling, maybe just catching up with friends online, and then wham!
Hmm.
Someone else's win just like lands a little heavy, you
Yeah.
know? A new business takes off, that amazing vacation photo pops up.
Yeah, or a milestone they hit that seems to come out of nowhere.
Exactly. And you might have felt that little twinge, maybe envy, or even just a bit of, huh, why isn't that happening for me?
Oh, absolutely. It's fundamental, really. We naturally gauge where we stand by looking at others. But, well, that instinct can easily go sideways
Sideways how?
into really unproductive places. It can breed self-doubt, make us procrastinate, basically leave us feeling like all the good stuff is, limited and we missed out.
Right, and that is exactly what we want to dig into today. We're not going to suggest you can just like flip a switch and stop noticing what other people are doing. That feels impossible, frankly.
Yeah, that's not realistic.
Instead, we're going to explore a different way to look at it, a way to actually use comparison, maybe harness it, for learning and growth. Forget the self-torture bit.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Our mission here in this deep dive is really to unpack this shift using something called the let them theory.
Okay.
And the source material we're drawing on, it explores this really thoroughly. Lots of stories, practical advice, basically how to reshape your whole relationship with comparison.
Okay, let them theory. I like the sound of that.
Hang on.
So let's dive in. The source material starts by talking about two kinds of comparison. Can you break those down?
Sure. So on one hand, you've got the type that just feels like a gut punch.
Mm-hmm. Been there.
Right. You see someone else succeed, and you immediately feel like it highlights something you lack. It just confirms your own, feelings of inadequacy,
Right.
leaves you feeling kind of flat,
Well,
defeated.
their win is somehow your loss.
Exactly. Like there's only so much success to go around, and they just took a piece you wanted. That's the negative comparison. It paralyzes you.
Yeah, we've all felt that, haven't we? Seeing someone else grab that opportunity you were hoping for or launch that thing you've only been thinking about, it's easy to fall into that trap.
It really is.
Hmm.
But the source contrasts this with a second type, a much more constructive way to compare.
Okay.
And this type is all about learning. It inspires action. The key difference, really, is whether you look at what they achieved and think, maybe that's something I could actually do too.
Ah, okay, so it's not just they have it, I don't.
Right. It's more like they achieved that.
Yeah,
Is there a path there? Could I work towards something similar? It shifts the focus.
that makes a huge difference. It's the gap between thinking, oh, they're just lucky, or
Right.
that's not for me, versus, okay, they did it, how? What can I learn?
Precisely. And the source really underscores just how much in our lives actually falls into that changeable category.
Yeah.
Things we can influence with effort.
Like what sort of things?
Well, the list is pretty long, actually. Your job, your friendships, finding purpose, how much time you spend with family, your finances, your habits, creative stuff you want to do.
Yeah, okay, so a lot.
Yeah. The main message, as the source puts it, is that very little about your life is fixed in stone, which is, a good reminder we often feel stuck, but maybe more is changeable than we think.
It really is. So, okay, how does this let them theory help us get to that more positive, useful kind of comparison?
Well, the core idea is right there in the name. When you see someone achieve something you also want, instead of spiraling down, you consciously choose to, let them.
Let them have it. Let them succeed.
Yeah, let them have their win. You acknowledge it, but you don't see it as something taken from you.
Huh.
Instead, you recognize that their success might actually offer a clue, maybe a formula, or just proof that it's possible.
So their win isn't a roadblock for me, it's data.
Exactly. Data points. Evidence. Their wins show you what can be done. That's the core takeaway.
Okay, so it's about actively shifting your mindset, moving away from thinking success is scarce, like there's only one pie,
Right.
to thinking, okay, there's an abundance here. Their success doesn't reduce my chances, it actually shows me a possible path.
Spot on. The source is really clear on this. Other people's wins are not your losses.
Hmm.
It talks about a virtually unlimited supply of happiness, success, money, opportunities, all of it.
Unlimited. That's a big claim.
Well, think about it. If you're looking for proof that someone, anyone, has achieved something you dream of, with billions of people out there, you're almost guaranteed to find examples.
It's true.
So the problem isn't really comparing. It's that we don't use the comparison effectively. We don't mine it for the useful information it contains.
Okay, that makes sense. The source then uses a story, right?
Right.
About an interior designer named Molly. That sounds like a good way to see this in action.
Yes, it's a great example. So Molly, she's an experienced, well-respected interior designer, doing pretty well.
Okay.
But she starts getting really irritated and kind of deflated
Mm.
because her neighbor, someone with zero formal training, no real experience in design, starts posting pictures of her own home renos online.
Oh.
And these posts just like take off. They get tons of attention. And Molly already found this neighbor kind of annoying to begin with.
Oh, I can feel this already. That's rough. It's one thing if it's a peer you respect, but someone you think doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That stings differently.
Totally. And Molly's reaction was, well, classic negative comparison. She started worrying the neighbor would steal her clients. She started doubting her own skills, her years of experience.
Questioning everything.
Right. And just feeling really resentful about how easy it seemed for this neighbor to get all this online praise. Like the neighbor's success was somehow invalidating her own hard work.
So, what was the advice for Molly? How did the let them theory apply here?
Well, the advice she got was pretty counterintuitive. She was told that her jealousy, it was actually an invitation from her future self.
An invitation.
Yeah, like a signal pointing towards something possible for her that she hadn't really embraced yet. The key insight was the neighbor's success wasn't taking anything away from Molly.
Oh.
It was simply showing one way or maybe a newer way to get recognition. So this, quote, irritating person actually became a kind of teacher for Molly.
A teacher. What was the lesson?
The lesson was about the power of social media, about having a modern online presence. Things Molly knew were important for her business, logically.
Right. Things she knew she should be doing.
Exactly. But she'd been putting them off, avoiding them. The neighbor, maybe unintentionally, was demonstrating a formula for reaching people online, showing off her work effectively. Molly's jealousy wasn't just random irritation. It was highlighting a skill gap she needed to address.
Got it. So the neighbor's success was like holding up a mirror, showing Molly something she already kind of knew but wasn't acting on.
Precisely. The source really emphasizes this point. Other people's wins actually expand what you see as possible. They don't shrink the pie.
They expanded. How?
They give you concrete proof. Proof that something can be done. They can shatter your own limiting beliefs, the stories you tell yourself about why you can't do something or why trying a new way won't work for you.
It's interesting that it was someone Molly found irritating who sparked this.
Yeah.
The source talks about why that happens, right?
Yes. It suggests that sometimes it takes someone who grates on you a bit to really break through your defenses.
Why is that?
Because their success can just dismantle all your excuses. If you see someone you don't particularly admire achieving something you want, it forces you to look really hard at why you haven't done it yet.
Ouch. Okay.
And that frustration you feel. Often, the source argues, it's actually anger at yourself for not starting sooner, for not trying that thing.
I can see that. But couldn't it also just make you feel more resentful? Like, it's not fair they got that and I didn't.
That's definitely the initial reaction sometimes, and the source acknowledges that pain. But it reframes that resentment, basically wasted energy focused outward.
Right.
The let them theory encourages you to turn that energy inward. Ask, okay, what are they doing that I'm not? What can I learn here? And that anger, if you channel it right, it can be incredibly motivating, a real catalyst for change.
Okay, so that's the let them part, recognizing the lesson. But then there's the next step, shifting from let them to let me. What does that involve?
It involves taking that spark, that realization, and actually doing something with it, making it active.
Right, not just observing, but acting.
Exactly.
No.
It was about looking at the data, what works for them, and then getting to work yourself. The source talks about putting in the reps.
Putting in the reps, like at the gym.
Yeah, exactly like that. It's the consistent, sometimes boring, sometimes unglamorous effort that actually builds towards big goals. Think about building muscle memory. It doesn't happen overnight.
No.
Or, the source mentions Tom Brady, his whole philosophy wasn't just about raw talent. It was relentless consistency, determination, just doing the work day in, day out.
And that connects back to Molly. Well, the neighbor was putting in the reps on social media.
Molly was making excuses or just not prioritizing it. The neighbor wasn't necessarily more talented. She was just consistently doing the thing Molly wasn't.
Okay.
And when someone close to you, someone in your world achieves something you want, it just obliterates those excuses you might have been clinging to. It really highlights your own potential if they can do it.
Then maybe I can too.
Right. The source is honest. These moments can sting. Comparison can be painful. But the theory helps you see the teaching hidden inside that pain.
So jealousy isn't just like a toxic emotion we should ignore or feel guilty about.
Not according to this theory. It frames jealousy as a doorway to your future cracked open.
A doorway.
Yeah. Your job isn't to slam it shut in shame, but to notice it, See it not as proof you're failing, but as a sign pointing towards something you desire. Then you got to push through that initial yuckiness and take action based on what it revealed.
And the main things stopping us are usually internal.
Mostly, yes.
Mm-hmm.
The source really emphasizes that. Our own excuses, our fears, our emotions that we let run the show.
Okay. This idea of comparison actually being a motivator, the source has a really personal story about that too, right? About a house renovation.
Yes, it's a very vivid example.
Mm-hmm.
The author shares this time when they were struggling a bit financially. Meanwhile, a friend was doing this huge, amazing house renovation.
Mm.
Initially, she was just, happy for her friend, interested in the updates. But as it got closer to being finished, she started feeling kind of sad, disheartened.
Yeah.
And then she finally went to see the finished house. And it was stunning. Exactly the kind of dream house she wanted. Playroom, pool table, these amazing queen-size bunk beds, things she'd specifically dreamed about.
Oh, wow. That's specific.
Yeah. And seeing it all realized by her friend just triggered this wave of incredibly intense jealousy.
That gut punch again, seeing your specific dream lived out by someone else.
Totally. She said she felt genuinely happy for her friend, like logically,
Yeah.
but emotionally. She was just overwhelmed with envy, feeling totally inadequate.
What happened then?
It led to what she calls a full-blown tantrum at her husband later. Just unloading all this fear and frustration that they would never achieve that kind of life.
But the insight wasn't really about the house or even the money, was it? It went deeper.
Exactly. When she really sat with it, reflected honestly, she realized the jealousy wasn't truly about the friend or even aimed at her husband. It was about her.
About her.
About the fact that she felt she kind of given up on her own ambitions. That she was passively waiting, maybe relying on her husband's success to make her dreams happen someday.
Ah.
And the big realization, the powerful truth bomb was, your life is your responsibility. If you want something, you got to be the one to make it happen. Take ownership. Do the work.
Wow. Okay, so how did the let them theory fit into making sense of that whole painful experience?
Well, the friend's beautiful renovation, even though it initially caused that spike of intense jealousy, it ultimately served as proof of what was possible.
It showed her the dream was achievable.
Right. It kicked the door open, as she puts it, on her own ambitions that had maybe gone dormant. It made her see that getting what she wanted wasn't about needing to be special or lucky. It was about being consistent, determined, willing to put in those reps.
Just showing up and doing the work.
Exactly. It's a really empowering message, ultimately. You don't have to be extraordinary. You just have to be persistent.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this all up. If we were to boil down the let them theory, what's the absolute core message?
At its heart, it's about making a conscious choice about how you react when you see others succeed. The big problem we often face is getting stuck focusing on how unfair it feels, comparing endlessly.
Right, which just drains all your energy.
Exactly. It leads to paralysis, wasted energy.
Yeah.
The truth is, comparing is natural. We all do it. But it can seriously undermine you if you don't manage it. You can't control what others achieve.
But you can control your response.
Precisely. You have total control over how you interpret it and what you do next.
And the solution the theory offers is?
Choose to let them have their success. Acknowledge it without letting it diminish you, and then use their success as fuel, as evidence. See it as proof of what's possible for you too.
Turn the envy into inspiration.
Yes. And critically, turn that inspiration into action. That's the key. The let them part is about learning the lesson. The let me part is about putting in your own effort, doing your own reps, focusing on your own journey.
It really sounds like embracing this could free up a lot of mental and emotional space that currently gets eaten up by that negative comparison loop.
Absolutely. You stop wasting energy feeling bad about what others have and start investing that energy into creating what you want. The source even hints this applies beyond just goals and achievements.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Like in relationships, for instance. Letting go of trying to control others or comparing your relationship to others.
Mm-hmm.
It suggests that can lead to much healthier, stronger connections, too. But that's probably a deep dive for another day.
Definitely sounds like it. So, okay, final thought then for you listening. Maybe take a second now or later today. Think about a time recently when you felt that pang, that jealousy watching someone else. According to this let them theory, what might that feeling actually be trying to teach you? What desire of your own is it pointing towards? What potential doorway maybe just got nudged open for you?
Yeah. What's the invitation there?
Definitely something worth thinking about.